Good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Anomitra.
Good afternoon to ma'am.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, Anomitra.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Arvind, sir, shall I start?
Just wait 2 minutes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. All the best, Anomitra teacher. Arvind sir, need to ask one
Thank
question.
you.
We need to enter through our CBSE ID, mail ID to enter this meeting. Arvind sir.
Yes, Market ma'am.
Sir, we need to enter for this training also through CBSE ID.
Yes. Now each and everything you have to enter CBSE ID only.
Yes, but when I am entering, it is showing that you can. That's why I have to enter through my.
Same with me also. I'm also not able to join with
Sir,
CBSE.
same problem with me, sir.
Actually,
Yes,
I'm unable
same
to
Why?
join
sir.
with CBSE ID.
again.
In
we have
where?
to-
In
No, sir. Actually,
Where?
they will, yesterday there is a one message in CBSE ID means CBSE mail. We have got a like today I received it, but it is showing that day before yesterday they have given it. We have to again change our password and ID and everything.
no. They are saying
Yes,
that
sir.
from
Sir, it is basically happening because her password has been changed. I just told you, I called you 5 minutes before and I told you the same. It is happening because our passwords are being changed. We are even unable to fill the assessment form also.
So same
Okay,
with me
so,
also. I'm
just-
unable to join. Yes, sir.
if
Same.
password change, then please send me the message. If that are saying the password have to be changed, each and everyone password have to be changed. That message please send in training group. Okay.
Sir, it is actually that we have to go to that link and we have to change it. It is in the mail.
Okay. Let us check.
Let
Okay.
me try once.
But
If it is okay, then other teachers can also do it.
Arvind sir, this is happening with all the teachers.
Yes,
Okay, so let me just check, sir, because I don't know whether is there any circular key password have to be changed. And if it is there, then we will change the password.
There, Arvind sir, there are some circulars related with the CBSE Digital Edu. You can check those circulars.
Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon, all teachers. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
सर
sir.
ये मेल आया
Good
था सर
afternoon.
ये मेल भेजा गया है सर मेल मिला है
That is why I'm telling Arvind to just check it out. That something might be
Okay,
with
okay.
there, and just to
Okay,
check
okay.
it. But in my mobile, I'm not able to open with the CBSE Edu. That is why I'm telling to you.
Sir, everybody is
Oh.
same issue, sir. Nobody is able
That
to
is why
open it.
I'm opening with the my own personal ID.
Okay.
यस सर हम लोगों ने भी
Okay.
सीबीएसई आईडी से ज्वाइन नहीं कर पा रहे हैं और जीमेल अकाउंट से हम लोगों ने आज का मीटिंग ज्वाइन किया है इसके पहले भी ऐसे ही हुआ था सर
अच्छा ठीक आज कोई ट्रेनिंग था क्या
पहले भी जो इन हाउस ट्रेनिंग हुआ था उसमें भी सेम प्रॉब्लम ही था सीबीएसई आईडी से हम लोग मीटिंग ज्वाइन नहीं कर पा रहे थे और आज का मीटिंग भी सीबीएसई आईडी से नहीं हो पा रहा है
अच्छा ठीक बट जब आप असेसमेंट फॉर्म भरिएगा तो उसमें सीबीएसई आईडी को ही दीजिएगा उसमें एक कॉलम है ना जिसमें सीबीएसई आईडी को देना है तो वो दीजिएगा
Okay, sir.
ठीक है, okay. Okay, Anomitra ma'am, now you start, ma'am, because 55 teachers are already present.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon to one and all present here today for the CBSE training on the topic change management, presented by me, Anomitra Gupta, PGT English. I welcome our beloved principal sir, vice principal sir, senior coordinator ma'am, junior coordinator ma'am, and all my dear teachers. With a grateful heart for having got this wonderful opportunity to be your presenter. Um when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Leo Tzu. Yes, we are talking about change and the fact that change is the only constant in everybody's life. Managing change is a daily part of the human experience, from navigating a new software to welcoming a new family member. Change, both large scale and small scale, is constant. So now the question arises, what is change management? So change management refers to the process of leading individuals, teams, or an entire organization through structural change. So this is a very systematic process where we can lead individuals or team or an entire organization through a systematic change. In the field of education, if we talk about what is change management in the field of education, change management is the process of preparing the organization for upcoming changes, creating an implementation plan for leading the change, and then finally implementing the change. So basically there are these two steps that is involved. First is the implementation plan, and then implementing the change. Now, let's talk about the 4 principles of change management. Successful change management depends on 4 core principles, as you can see in your screen. The first is understand change. Second, plan change. Third, implement change. And the fourth and the most important point is communication change. So let's explore the first principle, that is understand change, along with some tools and some techniques that you could use, to put the change into operation. Understand change. To strongly promote the benefits of the change, you need to figure out them yourselves. That means what? Understanding change, what you need to change, that is very essential, right? We need to figure out ourselves that what needs to change, whether it's in our life or whether it's in a organizational level. So these some questions you can see is there in your screen, so you can think about these. See, the first one is, why do you need to change? Why that change is required? What are your key objectives? What will the benefits of the change be to the organization? Of course, if we are like talking about any change in the organization, it will be for the benefit of the organization. It will have a positive impact on the organization. So we need to actually, think about what are the benefits. Fourth question is, how will it affect people positively? Of course, whatever change is made should affect people positively. What will people need to do to manage the change successfully, right? So the change management, the process, okay, and what the people need to do so that they can manage it positively and successfully. So these are some questions which needs to be kept in my mind while understanding the need for the change. Next, we have the Beckhardt and Harris change equation. So it can be important to think about the negative results of not making the change, right? So, we have to consider what the negative things can happen if that change is not put into action, right? So, according to Beckhardt and Harris change equation, this explains that for a change to work, there has to be enough discomfort with the old ways of doing things, right? So a person needs to understand, or that dissatisfaction should be there, that discomfort should be there in the old ways of doing things, right? Only then a person will try new things and will go for the change. So there should be this discomfort, there should be this dissatisfaction in a person to actually implement the change. People should feel confident that the new approach will be better and that there is a straightforward way to get there. So obviously, along with the leader, the team members, they also need to feel confident about whatever the leader is planning, right? And whatever action he's going to take, he or she is going to take, that should be for the benefit and for the employees, of course, or the team, whatever. And to reach there is a straightforward method. There's a straightforward way to go there. The second one is plan change. Of course, effective change doesn't just appear by chance, and any plan one makes should be right for the organization. So when planning change, of course, we have to be very, very, have a good strategy for that. So these are the 4 points that can be kept in mind while planning change. So the first is, as you can see, sponsorship. Sponsorship, how will you secure, or you can say undertake and use high level encouragement and sponsorship for the change? The second point is involvement. Who is the best positioned to help you out, help the leader out to execute the change, execute the plan, basically? Support, of course, this is very essential. Change is most efficient when we can win support from people across the organization, right? So we need to have the support of our team members. That is very, very crucial. And the last point is, of course, impact. Finally, if you think about what success should look like once the change is implemented, and how will you predict and assess the impact of the change? What goals do you need to achieve? So that impact should be there while you are planning the change, while you are making the strategies, and while you are planning for the change. The next principle is implement change. So there are many strategies that one can actually put to use. Like, for example, we have Cotter's 8-step change model. So this model, this Cotter's 8-step change model, this explains how to inject a sense of urgency into one's action so that a momentum is built and inspire everyone to get behind what one's change aims, right? So this sense of urgency is required, so that momentum is built up and everybody gets inspired that no, now we need to change. Now this plan should be, transform into action. So basically, that sense of urgency, that creation of that sense of urgency is a must to actually inspire everyone to change. Then in the right side of the slide, you can see that there is this change curve. So this change curve tells us to be mindful of people's feelings as well. While putting up a plan, that is very essential, that we need to consider the feelings and the problems of others as well. So it shows the stages that we all go through during organizational change, basically, like from shock and then denial to actually accepting the fresh approach. So obviously we will be shocked and we will be in a state of denial also for sometimes, maybe, if we are not understanding the plan. But of course that happens, and people need to overcome that for a change to happen. So see here, the following steps can be taken to implement change positively. The ones written in the red letter, block red letters. So these are some of the steps which can be taken for a successful implementation of change. So the first point is ensure everyone involved understands what needs to happen, right? Everybody whoever is involved in the process of change, they need to know that why is this required and what is this, right? They need to have that knowledge. So what it means for them also, right? Then the second question is agree to the success criteria of your changes and make sure that they are regularly measured and recorded. So your change, your plan should be recorded in a daily basis. It should be measured in a daily basis. So only then you will be able to track it. It's just like losing weight. So you have to, like check it regularly, your weight. If I give you a simple example, you have to check it regularly to know that how much weight you are losing. So it's the same with implementation of change. So it should be like measured and recorded on a daily basis. Then the third point is identify any training requirements to implement the change, whether the team members, they require any specific training for that or not. And the fourth is change old habits so that the new practices becomes the norm. Of course, we need to get rid of our old habits and the old ways of doing things, and we need to like take the new habit, whatever we are planning, those new rules, those new practices needs to be taken into action. Only then it will become a rule. The last principle, and of course the most important principle, is communicate change. Communication is the key. So communication is a very important component of change management. The change that you want to achieve must be clear and appropriate. So people understand what you want them to do. If you are unable to communicate with your team that what is your plan, then obviously that change will never get into action. Why they need to do it? Why the team members, they need to do it? So in order to have an effective change management, we cannot rush the process. It's not like, okay, I'm thinking about changing something and the very next day you are rushing into the process and doing it. It will not work that way. So to begin, one may ask questions about the strategies and tactics that are currently being used. So these are, you can see in the screen, some sample questions that you can ask or you can like consider. The first question is, how does the team communicate? Does everyone prefer the same type of communication? So what is the like communication process between the team members? And are they all comfortable in that? Some people, they are more comfortable, as you can see, in WhatsApp. Some people in call. So it is like very different. The communication process may be very different from person to person. So the leader needs to understand that as well. Has any communication between members been lost in transition over the last few months? And if so, what went wrong? So have we like missed any part of the communication, any important part of the communication, or has it lost in the process? If that has happened, what is the reason behind that? So one needs to understand that as well. Fourth question is, what are the goals of the department? Are the current systems in place reaching the long-term goals? So obviously, keeping in mind the long-term goals is again very essential. The last question is, what are the biggest issues that the team is facing? Do you have any solution for improvement? So these questions needs to, the leader or the, whoever is trying to implement the change, that person needs to keep in mind these questions if that person has a team. So communication is a very, very important factor, very important principle of change management. So the basic idea here is to keenly observe what's happening and decide what needs to change. Engaging one's team members in the conversation is essential. Doing so allows to maintain transparency within the team. So once you engage all the team members, there will be a transparency, right? And everybody will be aware of what is happening. So that is important. This will benefit the leader when he or she starts to initiate the change, as it does not come as a sudden surprise. Obviously, if the team members know about the plan or they are involved in the process of the plan, sorry. This got disconnected. Just a second. Yeah. So the team members, it will not come as a sudden surprise for them because they are already engaged in the whole process of change management. So therefore, keeping everyone involved in the process of change is crucial. Next, we have the ADKAR change management model. As you can see, ADKAR. So this is a very useful tool that you can use to communicate your change, and it describes these 5 things that you can try, for a good communication. The first, that is A, it stands for awareness. Awareness of the need for the change, like announce the change to the employees, right? Well ahead of time, then give the opportunity to your employees to ask questions and make suggestion. So that is awareness. Everybody should be kept aware of the process. Next, we have D. D is for desire. So desire to take part in and support it, right? So gauging employees' reaction to the change, and identify the champions who all will be the biggest support in the process of change. Then the employees are resistant or indifferent. If they are resistant or indifferent, address their concerns or show them how the change will benefit them, right? So doing so will involve more and more team members in your process. Then K stands for knowledge. So providing training or coaching to show what employees needs to do after the change takes place, address any skill gaps, other resources such as process flowcharts that employees can take into reference. A stands for ability to change. Of course, you can monitor performance immediately following the change and provide constructive feedback. So the ability to change, that is also quite essential. And the last R, it stands for reinforcement. Of course, reinforcement to, you can say, sustain the change for a long term. So use positive feedback, reward, recognition to encourage employees to keep following the new process. So the next slide we have, change is challenging. So though each one of us has intimate experience with personal change, of course, success at organizational level is often elusive. And actually many studies have shown that the success rate in organizational change is below 50%. So I would like to ask you all now that for how many of you change is challenging, or you can say, or you agree with me that change is indeed challenging. So you may just reply yes or no in the chat box. How many of you find change challenging? If you find change challenging, you can type yes. If you find change not challenging, you can type no. in the chat box. Yeah, at times, yes. Yes, okay. Not always. Yes, sometimes it's challenging. Yes, yes. Yeah, right. So not always, yeah. Yeah, for like maximum of us actually change is challenging, but of course it depends on the situation, and also the fact that personal change is a very different thing, and organizational change is a different thing, because organizational change with it will have it has a lot of like members in it. So yeah, so it depends. So yes, as you can see, like in this slide which is in your screen right now, the first man, he says, "Hey, I have got an idea." To which there are three different responses, as you can see. So the woman standing beside him says, "That's brilliant. I'll do it right now." The one in the blue top. So she says that your idea is brilliant. I'm going to like do it right now. She's fully supporting this man. So the woman standing beside her, she says, she's saying what? Sorry, she has no clue what they are talking. So she's saying, "I don't get it." And the last man, he says, "What I do already works fine for me." So this means that the last two person, they won't, implement the idea. They are not supporting it basically. So see, after 1 year, after a year has passed, the first man says, "I still think my idea would work." To which the woman who was in support, she says, "It does work. Why aren't we all doing it again?" The third woman still doesn't have any clue doing what she's asking, because she doesn't even know what is going on, what is happening, what was the plan. And the last man says, "Every year, another leader with a big idea." So this man is very adamant. He's like, every year leaders are changing and they all have such big plans, but nothing happens. So you can clearly understand by this that how the implementation of change failed in this case, right? Due to many reasons, and the basic one is, of course, the communication gap. So therefore, understanding the principles and models of change is extremely important. So today I will be discussing two very important models of educational change. The first one is Guskey's linear model of educational change, and the second one is spiral model of educational change. So let's first discuss Guskey's linear model of educational change. So Guskey, he asserts that innovations in schools are most successful when teachers use a new tool and see firsthand the benefits for their own students. So here Guskey is actually giving all the part to the teacher. Basically, it is small scale change we are talking about. So if a teacher has any idea, has a new idea, and he or she is trying to implement it in the students of her own class, suppose, and if it is working, that means what? The teacher will have the belief, right, that okay, my idea worked, right? So then it can like go on to the higher levels. So this view is also supported by Glater, who states that small scale experiments are better vehicles of change than rapid large scale intervention. So Glatter also supports Guskey's view over here, and he says that yes, small scale change, basically, like if you are giving the power to the teachers, that is going to be very effective. A clear demonstration of improvement to students' learning is what leads to a change in attitude or belief. So of course, if a teacher sees, if she or he gets a clear demonstration that okay, my change is working, so yes, he or she is going to follow that later. So this consists of 4 linear steps basically. The first is professional development. The second is change in practice. The third point is change in student learning outcomes. And the fourth is change in teachers' beliefs and attitudes. So professional development, here the plan, okay, whatever idea, innovative idea the teacher is going to, apply to the class. Then change in practice means she's leaving her old methods and she's trying something new. Then the teacher is going to see that, okay, in the student learning outcomes, there is improvement, right? And then the teacher is going to change the belief and attitude. And of course, the change is actually successful in this case. So, here, support for Guskey's model, it comes from number of different studies. Bolster, he also investigated the lack of connection between educational research and educational practice and found that teachers only commit to a new instructional approach when they have seen it work for their students. So, yes, of course, a teacher is going to, like, if she or he gets a proof that, okay, idea is working, so that is going to be a booster for that person, okay, rather than educational research and all the big things that happens. Next, we have the spiral model of educational change. So this model, it completely supports Guskey's model, okay, and it's just a bit higher up in, like, it's following this cyclical method. So this model, it completely supports Guskey, and it states that small scale changes, like you can say teaching practice, may result in a visible change in student learning outcome. So the change is very small, small, or you can say small scale change. But again, the outcome is large. So that is important. So the uptake of an innovation takes place in a cyclical manner, the spiral, as the teachers experience more professional development, gain more insight, and over time change their attitudes and beliefs about the innovation. So, as more teachers progress up the spiral, it becomes wider, indicating the greater uptake of the innovation. So, as you can see over here, the tip point, it's starting from small scale change, then it goes to visible change in the students' learning outcomes, change in the teacher's belief or attitude. Till here it is following Guskey, right? Then related small scale changes are happening. That teacher is talking to another teacher, she or he now wants to implement that in her class as well. Then further visible change in the student learning outcomes, further change in teachers' beliefs or attitudes, and finally large scale innovation embedded in school life. So now it is going up to the highest level, where the spiral, where the innovation has become a part of the institution. So this is the correct process of actually, like, where a change will be successful. Of course, no organization can afford a standstill, you can say. There are always new challenges to meet and better ways of doing things. However, every change one needs to make should be well planned and implemented with care. That's where change management comes in. Now the question arises, what changes should be made in schools? So the factors leading to change in schools can differ according to each educational institution. So it is different in different educational institution. It depends on what needs to change in that particular institution. So some of the common ones are listed in your screen right now, as you can see. The first one is improving student health. That is, of course, adding more physical activities. So I personally feel that, this is very essential, as students, they have been like into this sedentary lifestyle since last 2 years. And still they are in that only. But once everything comes back to normal, including more physical activities is a must. Second, we have teaching more life skills. Third, improving curriculum based upon recent studies. Fourth, reimagining of how the school year structured. What were our goals when the school year structured? Are we actually getting into following those, or are we actually reaching our goals? Incorporating online with offline instructions. Improving the working conditions of the teacher. Adjusting physical environments for social distancing. And the last part is improving school communications through the use of technology. So these are some of the changes that that should be made in schools. Next, we have changes due to the pandemic and its effects. So, of course, one of the biggest impacts that is seen recently that calls for leading change in schools is the coronavirus pandemic, which completely changed the educational process for students and teachers. It was like completely something else, right? And school communities in different countries had to, try a new type of teaching, which was completely digital, and had to quickly learn to use platforms and tools available online to manage the classes. So this happened with every one of us, and we already know what difficulties we had faced. So the target, of course, was not to interrupt the teaching learning process, and with the suspension of face to face method, and with the introduction of remote teaching as a daily method, new, you can say, criticalities have emerged, but also new and extraordinary opportunities to rethink the old ways of doing things have emerged as well. So here you can see in the screen right now, that is, we are talking about a survey that was conducted by Agnum. So it is on the effects of the COVID. So it shows that 25 out of 100 students have experienced speed connectivity issues. 19 out of 100 reported that not the entire class was conducted, and almost 10 lamented not having suitable devices. 12.7% students could not avail themselves of the remote teaching activities. So this we are talking about on a worldwide scale. Of course, in India, the percentage is higher, right? So according to this report, the period of the COVID emergency was a catalyst of deficits that actually already existed. So the widening of social inequalities, it hit certain categories of students mainly. That is, the first is children and youth with special educational needs, learning difficulties, or attention deficits. They require a careful and responsible attention, which is effective in a social dimension with, schoolmates and teachers. So they were not getting that. Then the second category is, of course, younger student, that is kindergarten, primary school, basically. So, the ones who don't get much support in their houses, they suffered a lot, right? Because of the negative effects of remote learning. And the facts that their cognitive development is, it is in its flowering stage. So, of course, they also suffered. The third category is the students who do not have a computer, phone, or a tablet and could not obtain any, are literally left out of the remote learning. So, this category is also there, the ones who don't have any devices to continue with the online classes. Then we have students who live in overcrowded dwellings, right? That is 41.9% in a worldwide basis, if you see, according to data. They have experienced finding space difficulties and network issues. So these are the categories of students who were the worst affected due to the pandemic and are still being the worst affected. So in this slide, we are going to talk about how one can manage changes during the pandemic. So, of course, transferring teaching from classroom to multimedia platforms require new skills, which are just not digital, but also on the ability to use technologies in a proficient way to innovate teaching, promoting student interaction, supporting their independent and cooperative work. So it is much more than just knowing to use digital platforms. It is much more than that. There is this support needed. There is continuous encouragement needed. So a school that is prepared to manage remote teaching is a school that will be able to develop a set of personal, interpersonal, and organizational abilities to cater to learning outcomes. So here you can see some points are given, like the humbleness of teachers to rethink themselves as professionals, the unconditional commitment, the sense of responsibility, the ability to instill hope in students are some of the qualities of the teacher that should be a resilient to COVID-19. So these points should be taken into consideration. And resilient organizations, they are the results of the investments that was done over the years, systematically building professional communities which did not stop learning, teachers who constantly try new things, try new innovations through research action method, of course, and they reflect on the innovation, and like they support the students in actually building up and overcoming the difficulties. So the relationships are based on trust, mutual respect, of course, and also a strong sense of belonging and identity to openly exchange views to innovate their professional practices. So here we have the final thoughts for the session. So at the core of successful change management is the positive impact on the student learning outcomes that teachers experience when implementing an innovation. So when leading innovations in schools, keep these three things in mind. The first is small scale change, according to what we saw in Gusky, right? According to what Gusky says, small scale incremental changes tend to be more successful. The second point is professional development is essential for allowing teachers to implement the change successfully. So of course there should be like a good professional development in the teachers, ideas, innovations, whatever the tools they can use. And the third is to facilitate opportunities for teachers to reflect upon and share new practices. Sorry. So now, as you can see, these four people have come again. And now the first person says, here's exactly what I want you to do. To which the second girl who was always supporting him, she says, this has really benefited my students. Okay, his idea has really worked for my students. So she's, from the very beginning, she's supporting this man. And the third girl says, oh, really? Show me again. Now she's interested, right? Because two people are agreeing to this, and two people are, the second girl is saying, yes, it works, this plan works for my students. So then the third girl, you can say, she's also interested, and she says that, okay, show me that again. And then the fourth boy, the adamant one, he says, I'll try too. So he's like, okay, I'm going to also try whatever you three are trying. Okay. So this is where change will be successful. Change management works over here. So with this, I come to the end of today's presentation. I would like to end it with the proverb that is, progress is impossible without change, and those who can change their minds can change anything. Thank you so much. Any questions on your part is welcome.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. It was
Yes, sir.
a wonderful session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Good
you so
session,
much.
Anomitra. Very nicely presented. Very nice.
Thank you,
Great.
sir. Okay, sir.
Nice session, Anomitra.
Thank you, Ananta ma'am. Thank you, Pavish, sir. Thank you, Khushbu ma'am. Thank you, Sudha. Thank you, Ritu ma'am. Thank you, Ankita ma'am, Ananta ma'am, Ashok sir, Chaitali ma'am. Thank you, Rupali. Thank you, Rita ma'am. Thank you, Nandita ma'am.
Thank you, Twinkle ma'am. Thank you, Pooja ma'am. Thank you, Nandita ma'am. Thank you, Palumi ma'am. Thank you, Shalini ma'am.
Super session, Anomitra ma'am.
Thank you so much, Tumpa ma'am.
बहुत अच्छा रहा स्मूथली एकदम.
Thank you.
अरविंद सर लीव हो जाए क्या?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Sarita ma'am.